Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jeremiah's YouTube channel,
Yes.
where he's going to ask his mom a lot of questions.
Yes. Mamas, when and where were you born?
Hello, Jeremiah. I was born in Evansville, Indiana in 1987, making me 35 years old.
Who were you named after?
My first name, I wasn't named after anyone because my first name is M, spelled E-M. My middle names, however, I had multiple initially in my life, and I was named after a lot of my aunts. So I had 4 middle names, and I was named after all 4 of my aunts.
Oh, where did you live? How did your family come to live there?
I grew up in southern Indiana in Vincennes, and my family grew up there. We had been there for 3 generations by the time I was born. We were farmers, and my great grandfather came over after World War I. He fought in World War I for Germany, and then after World War I, left Germany and immigrated to the United States, moved to southern Indiana, and was a farmer there, and that's where I grew up.
Who did you grow up with? What was it like?
I grew up with my extended family. There's a lot of extended family there in southern Indiana, but I have an older brother, Uncle Eli, and then my mom and dad, my aunts and uncles, and my grandma and grandpa on my dad's side, your pop-up side.
What older relatives do you remember, and what do you remember about them?
All of those ones I just listed. And I remember having to work in the fields with all of them. So I started working in the fields at 5 years old, and they all worked in the fields as well growing up.
Did you have a hobby? Did you collect anything?
My hobby was reading, and it still is. I love to read books. I like to read fiction and for pleasure, and I don't typically collect books. I like to go to the library instead.
But do you collect anything?
I collect children, apparently, but apparently only 3.
Did you have a favorite movie as a child?
It's a great question. I loved anything with Johnny Depp in it, which you still see Johnny Depp movies, but he was a newer actor whenever I was a kid. I liked Chocolat. Probably was one of my favorite ones that he was in growing up.
Did you have a favorite type of food? And what was your least favorite food?
Watermelon. I grew up on a melon farm. Watermelon was my favorite food in the whole wide world. But I would have to say if I had a least favorite food, it's lima beans, which it still is today.
I was going to say asparagus.
No, I like asparagus.
In your teenage years, what did you and your friends do for fun? Did you have a favorite hangout spot, as the teens call it nowadays?
I grew up in a time where there was nothing to do except get in trouble, but we would hang out in the fields. We would all get together and we would park in fields and hang out and not always make the best decisions. Yes.
Did you ever get in trouble?
No, I never got caught.
Did you have any jobs?
I did, actually. I worked on the farm from 5 years old until I joined the Marine Corps at 17. And then In addition to that, when I was 16, I worked as a cashier at a grocery store, and I worked as a cashier at a farm supply store called Rural King growing up whenever I was in high school.
What goals did you have as a teenager?
To get out of Indiana.
Who was your hero growing up?
Sorry, I probably should have given you a better answer than that. But truthfully, when I was in high school, one of my biggest goals was to make it out of my hometown. That was one of the things that a lot of people didn't do. My high school was only 67 students for the high school, not the grade. So, yes. And people didn't leave. And so, one of my biggest things that I wanted to do was get out of the Midwest and get out of Indiana.
Who was your hero growing up?
That's another great question. I would say she had already passed away by the time I.
Is it the Queen of England?
No, it was not the Queen of England. Thank you, ma'am. I would say Eleanor Roosevelt was one of my biggest heroes growing up, but I really admired all of the things that she had done as First Lady whenever she was First Lady. And I enjoyed reading about all the things that she had done.
For your school years, what do you remember about attending school?
That there was a lot of it. Oh my gosh, we actually got snow days, which is something you don't get to experience.
'Cause
Yeah,
we
we
live in California.
we got weather. You're not in this interview, ma'am.
I know.
But we
I'm side commentary.
we got weather days, fog delays. I remember being in every club. That was, I mean, I was valedictorian. I was in every club. I was in every sport. I remember most of my high school days. I spent most of my time at school. So I really enjoyed being there and participating in all of the things.
What were your favorite subjects in school and why?
I would say that my favorite subjects were science. I still obviously love science. I really liked biology specifically, anything to do with living sciences. I really enjoy English and literature because I love to read. History was very enlightening. I still really do enjoy history and learning where we've come from and what we've experienced so that we can move forward. Math, I liked math too. I liked all the subjects that I learned, but I would say science was my favorite.
What schools did you attend? And what grades were you there for?
Well, I went to high school. I graduated from high school. I went from kindergarten through fifth grade at Decker Elementary School. And then I was the last graduating class out of that school. We had a whopping 18 students in my class, and they demolished that school so that they could bring two small elementary schools together and then make South Knox Elementary School, which was a K through 6. So I was the last graduating elementary school student from Decker, the first sixth grader to leave through South Knox Elementary School, and then I graduated from South Knox High School. And I graduated early.
Who were your favorite teachers and why?
Ooh, favorite teachers. I would say Mr. T was one of my favorite teachers. He was biology teacher, chemistry. A lot of our teachers taught more than one thing because lots of hats.
Yes.
So uh, he was our basketball coach. He was our chemistry teacher. He was our biology teacher, and he was our physics teacher. So he was one of my favorite science teachers. And then I really liked Mr. Scott. He did calculus, geometry. He did most of the maths. So he did AP calculus and geometry and AP trigonometry.
Did you go to college? Where did you go? And where did you study?
Oh my gosh, I'm still in school. I feel like I'm going to be in school forever. Um, yes, I did go to college. I went to, for my general education, I went through San Diego Community College in general, just piecemealed that together. And then I got my associate's degree in registered nursing through Miracosta College. I did my bachelor's degree through Point Loma Nazarene University, master's degree in nursing education through Liberty University, and currently working on my doctorate in nursing education also through Liberty University. And I will graduate next year and probably find something else to continue education in.
Wonderful education, though.
I feel like it is very important to always be learning.
For your family relations, do you know the origins of your family and where they lived?
I do actually. That is one nice thing about our family is that because we are relatively actually new Americans, our family has a very extensive family tree back home that they have worked really, really hard on that goes all the way back to Germany and England. So on your paternal side, so my dad's or your dad's side, you have a lot of Polish and English side, and then on my side, it's all German. Everybody from maternal and paternal side, everybody's from Germany.
What family stories have you heard about your parents, grandparents, and distant relatives?
Some of them are not so good. They're funny, but they're not good, and they're not high school appropriate. Um, yes, they're not PG-13. I Well, your pop, your grandpa, held a record for the entire state of Indiana for 20 years for shot put and discus, which are two track sports. He was a record holder from his senior year until 20 years later, which is, I think, is pretty darn cool. He's a strong farm boy.
Who was the earliest relative you remember? Can you share a story or memory about them?
Well, I would say that the earliest one would be my parents, but most specifically, I would say Pop because I spent so much time with him and still do spend so much time with him. Uh, I remember growing up and going out and begging to go out onto the farm and spend time out there. And I remember being out on, sold, we picked cucumbers and we had these big wagons of cucumbers. And I remember Pop, I was only a few years old, and he would plop me on the top of the wagon that was filled with cucumbers. And then I would get in trouble because I would get hungry and I would take bites out of certain cucumbers. And then they would be packing them into boxes and they would have to go and find the little M bites out of things because they couldn't send them out to the stores that had little bites. And so Pop Up would have to do extra work to go through and find all of the cucumbers with me to make my own little buckets so that I could eat them. But he made me my own little cucumber buckets.
How did you celebrate holidays and birthdays?
Growing up, teenager,
Yeah.
I would say birthdays were not as big as what they are now in your life. I definitely take birthdays very seriously now, but I think that a lot of that is due to the fact that I didn't have a lot of birthday celebrations growing up. They weren't very celebrated. It was pretty much just another day because my parents just saw them as another day. My grandparents just saw them as another day. Most often they just worked during them. So they weren't really celebrated. Christmas was a pretty big thing. Thanksgiving was a big thing. Easter was a big thing. Any of the religious holidays were a big thing because I was raised Lutheran. And so lots of lots of family get-togethers whenever there was a kind of religious holiday, but family get-togethers and dinners, but birthdays weren't so big of a thing. So when I became an adult, I flipped that, and that's why your childhoods, that's why your birthdays are such a big deal to me.
Did you marry? How did you meet? Where did you propose? And where was your honeymoon?
Ooh, that's a lot of questions. Yes, I have been married twice, actually. Your biological father and I met when I was in high school, and we joined the Marine Corps together, got married. He proposed when I was still in high school. We were married for 14, over 14 years, and then got divorced. And I have since remarried. There was no honeymoon. So, okay. I have since remarried, and I have a honeymoon scheduled this time around, but I haven't went on it. But I will be going to Fiji for a week next year whenever you are with your biological dad.
Hmm. What traits do you think are common in our family?
I think our love of food is definitely a big trait for us. We love getting together and spending time and enjoying new experiences and new foods. And I think we're definitely a we're a hardworking family. I would say there's not one person in this family that, and I don't want to hear you talk about your sisters, but I don't think there's one person in this family that doesn't actually really, really try their hardest at everything that they do.
Well, later in life, what is one of your happiest moments in your life?
Later in life,
Yeah.
what is my like to be determined later in life?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Well, let me figure that one out. Hold on. What is this? Oh, it's a later in life topic. What was one of the happiest moments in my life
Yes.
later, since the teenage years and early adult? I would say I like your sisters. I I tend to like you as well.
What
No, I
challenges in your
think,
life have made you stronger?
hold on, mister. I really do. I think that some of the happiest moments that I've had have been not I don't know. Baby phase, I'm gonna be honest here. Baby phase was not my favorite, but honestly, watching you guys become amazing young adults has been just so worth it.
I do enjoy that compliment. Orphan. What challenges in your life have made you stronger? Besides the girls, of course.
Well, I would say have I went through nursing school alone. I had to go through nursing school with 3 kids, 3 and under, by myself with no family and no help. I had to find my own childcare and make my own way, and I barely slept. And you guys were teensy, teensy tiny, but I started my first class whenever your youngest sister was 4 months old. And that was really, really, really hard, but so worth it in the end. Definitely so worth it. But it definitely gave me perspective of not only what you can accomplish if you really put your mind to it, but it also gave me perspective whenever I'm teaching or when I'm in clinicals and people ask for extensions or they tell me that they're struggling. I give them grace. in all things because I have absolutely been on the other side and needed someone to extend that to me and didn't get it. So it definitely made me the teacher that I am today.
On the flip note, what accomplishments are you most proud of?
Ooh, I don't know. You guys are kind of cool.
Especially me.
Yes, especially you. I think you guys are very, very, very cool.
What is the most amazing place you visited, and where do you hope to visit someday?
Oh my gosh, we've been to a lot of places. I would say one of my favorite places so far has been Iceland. I really, really enjoyed Iceland. I liked it during the winter. I'm really excited to go back during the summer and see it with all of the daylight. I'm new places. I am looking forward to our Great Wall of China trip next year. I'm looking forward to our Japan trip next year. I'm looking forward to, I don't know, I'm looking forward to a lot of things, but I I'm really looking forward to Italy and Greece. I'm looking forward to Australia. So um, those are things that I really, really am excited to see with you guys. And I definitely want to see the Great Barrier Reef with you guys before it's not there.
Mm-hmm. Did you enlist or get drafted into the military, and where did you serve?
Well, I kind of didn't get drafted, but yes, I did enlist into the Marine Corps whenever I was 17. I graduated early from high school to join the Marine Corps. I served up, my last duty station was here, hence why we're here. I served during this time of war, so that gives you an idea of where I've been. But same way with your dad, we served together, but I only did the first couple of years. Your dad's still in.
Do you remember any important eras or events in history? JFK assassination, civil rights movement, moon landing, 9/11.
I was only alive for one of those. So, yes, I do remember 9/11. I was in eighth grade. I remember I was at an orthodontist visit, and Pop Up had taken me to get my braces, the new wire put on my braces. And while I was getting my braces worked on, the Twin Towers were hit and they had all the TVs going. And Pop Up chose not to take me back to school. And instead, he and I went and got food together. And then we went and picked up Uncle Eli from school. And we went home and just kind of stayed there and watched the news. And then the next day at school, that's all we did actually. We just watched the news in school. No one had to do any homework. No one even had to move classes if they didn't want to. They opened up the whole study hall area and people could just watch the news all day long.
Do you remember when I was born, and what do you remember about that day?
I do. I happened to be there. I was there for that. You were born in Yuma, Arizona on March 19th, 2008. And one of the biggest things was that you were way overdue. You were almost 43 weeks, and a normal pregnancy is only 40 weeks. But no one would induce me because you were still kind of small measuring, and no one believed me on gestational age and everything because I don't know if you noticed, but you kind of have a big head, and your head and your body did not match even then. And so they let me keep baking and keep baking and keep baking. And no one thought that I was in labor. No one was helping me out with it. And then by the time they actually took me seriously, I had been in labor for about 18 hours. And then you ended up being an emergency C section and then in the NICU for a week. So Yeah, it was pretty rough day for first kid experience.
Well, I believe that's the end of our questionnaire.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. Please give a round of applause to our special guest, Anna Ellerman of the Russell family. And now, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I need them likes, guys. I need to feed my family.